First FIFA window of 2025 is upon us. The U.S. will take part in the CONCACAF Nations League Final Four at SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles. They will face Panama and then either Mexico or Canada. We went through the roster on our last pod. There's been a change since then. Johnny Cardoso drops out due to injury. As of this taping, I have not seen a replacement. Still plenty of names of note for Pochettino to call upon. Overall thoughts on these games, and I know you're going to give us a starting lineup.
Yeah, I'll give you my starting lineup, and it's constantly changing because I'm trying to get into the mind of Mauricio Pochettino and what he is going to use this for, and what he hopes to achieve out of the limited time that he's going to have with these players. But as we've said time and time again, 2 competitive games against obviously Panama to begin with, and then either Mexico and Canada. And I'll be honest with you, either of those is it going to be a competitive game and with a trophy on the offing. So I'm expecting that the U.S. wins. I'm expecting the U.S. wins both of these games. It's obviously been done before, and it would not surprise me in the least if they were, given the talent that they have, to pull it off. But there are some big questions when it comes, and these are evergreen type of questions that I'm not sure they're going to be solved over the next couple of games, but we might have some more answers or possibilities, shall we say, because there are still injuries. Obviously, the number 9 striker position remains open and remains a competition. Obviously, the center back pairing, and I do pair them, remains a question mark and a big liability. The return of someone like Tyler Adams, and we know his quality, but still trying to prove that he is back to where he needs to be and the leader and the impact type of player that he can be. So, there's still a lot of questions. And I still got to say, I still think that there is a question mark and a healthy competition going on for the starting goalkeeper. I do think the incumbent is Matt Turner, and I think he will be starting, but I'm not sure right now that he is the starter come a year and a half from now next summer.
For those of you watching, they popped up your lineup. You have it in a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, but I'm changing it as we go along. So I know, Sean and Kyler are angry at me right now because I'm starting to think about some things here. All right, so if you watch the thing, you know it, but I will read it out for you. Yes, I do have Matt Turner in goal. I have a back 4. I think that Pochettino is going to play a back 4. And it's not that he can't change. I know you and Stu at times have talked about him going to a back 3, which sometimes is the back 5 or anything like that. I think in general, and for the most part, it's going to be a back 4. I think that's where Pochettino sees his team playing. Jedi, obviously, on the left-hand side. I think for this camp, Joe Scally, keep in mind that Dest is coming back, but we don't know what he is ultimately going to be. And then I think the best that you have right now in terms of that tandem is Tim Ream and Chris Richards. And so we'll see ultimately if, again, I'm still not convinced with Chris Richards and Tim Ream. Mosse, the more we keep talking about Tim Ream, old Tim Ream, is he going to make it? The closer and closer we get to 2026 and the reality of going into 2026 with a Tim Ream as your starting center back becomes more and more clear. I'm not saying that's bad necessarily, but it is amazing that nobody else has come along and challenged and usurped him. Anyway, so those are the back 4. Midfield of Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, as I mentioned, forwards across the way. And even though Musa is listed in a forward. Now, originally I had Christian Pulisic. That doesn't change. And then Tim Weah, who I've talked about being so consistent on that right-hand side. Originally, I had Yunus Musa in there. But with Gio Reyna in camp, and I feel a need for Pochettino to try some different things. It would not surprise me in the least. And I wouldn't be adverse to it if a Gio Reyna, especially against the likes of Panama and then Canada or Mexico, is in there instead of Yunus Musa and kind of in a attacking central type of position. And then up top, I just think it's Josh Sargent right now. And we'll see if he can, like I said, translate what he's doing over in the championship with this national team. And it's his opportunity right now. We still haven't seen Balogun, so there are still question marks for this team. But there is certainly enough talent here to go and to win another Nations League.
I know you drew it up as a back 4, but Joe Scally does give you that flexibility because he's kind of a hybrid. He could also play as that third center back. You'd have Adams and McKennie in the midfield. In the initial lineup, you had Musa would drift out to that right wing back spot with Jedi left wing back, and then Pulisic and Weah floating behind Sargent. And even in your new lineup, you could put Weah as that right wing back and have Gio and Pulisic floating behind Sargent. So I do think we could see Pochettino toggle back and forth throughout a game.
Yeah, I mean, flexibility is good, and having players that can play multiple positions and even within a game can adjust, I think that's good. But again, we're 400 and whatever days away from the World Cup. It's going to come fast. And Mauricio Pochettino has obviously very limited time. And we've talked about, because of that limited time, he has to be incredibly efficient and economical, if you will, in terms of what he lays out for this team. And dumb it down is not the right phrase, but just be very, very clear as to these are the main tenets. This is what we need to do. And if you do those well, that's great. And sometimes that comes from being simple about where you are playing and what you're doing. And sometimes, guess what? It's not going to reflect what happens in your club situation. While Pochettino or any national team coach would love to have their players that they see on the field in the same positions and playing the same positions and even playing in the same style as the national team, that's just not realistic. And so you have to recognize that, all right, they're over there doing what they're doing, in this case, whether it's a Weah or a Musa or anybody else. But when they get to the national team, this is where they are ultimately going to play. And the players have to be able to adjust, and you have to make it as easy for them to adjust as possible.
Programming note, we will tape post-game pods after each of these matches on Thursday and Sunday. And I know I've been banging this drum, but assuming the U.S. gets past Panama, which I think they will, I think Canada is the sexier final. I know our whole lives, any CONCACAF competition, the dream final was always U.S.-Mexico. But I think right now, with the quality of the team Canada has, guys like Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, Jesse Marsh on the bench, and what's going on politically, Trump, the 51st state and all the rest, the hockey games we just had. You saw Toronto fans booing the U.S. anthem this past weekend in MLS. I think Canada right now would be the juicier matchup of the two.
Couldn't agree more, Mosse. I want Canada so bad, and I hope the soccer gods smile upon us for that delicious matchup, obviously led by American Jesse Marsh. You're welcome, Canada. And what they are. Also, the quality that we have. We've played Mexico time and time again. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a good game, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be a good test. And I'm also not saying that I don't enjoy beating Mexico in a final. But where we are right now and relative to the moment that is happening, both on and off the field, another opportunity to have a U.S.-Mexico matchup, what we saw with the hockey situation, and obviously, as you mentioned, with the political situation right now. Yeah, let's see if the soccer gods do, I think it's smile upon us and give us that matchup going forward. But either way, I think it's going to be two good tests for this national team. Not elite competition, as we talked about before, but the reality is that this is all they have right now. And again, the ability to, even in a couple of games, find a way to, at the end of those games, be standing on the podium and holding up a trophy with the confetti and the music.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.